For the next part of our trip in Colorado, we took Trail Ridge Road across Rocky Mountain National Park over to the west side, and we were heading to the Timber Creek Campground. This was a first come first served campground at this time of year, and we were really hoping that we were going to be able to get an open campsite. And we were actually really lucky. We didn't get there until a little while after 3 p.m., which is pretty late for a first come first served campground. Usually they're full by then, but luckily it was just kind of getting around to the less busy season, and we got a great camp spot. Very nice views of the mountains all around and a nice tent site with a fire pit. Even though it wasn't super secluded, it was still pretty nice, and this was a rather quiet campground, mostly people who were there to enjoy nature and really take everything in. Not as loud as some of the other campgrounds that we had stayed in, so that was great. After we had our tent and everything situated, then we got ready to head to the next visitor center because we wanted to get a backcountry permit for the following night. We just checked the weather, and the low tonight is going to be, would you say 32?
Yeah.
32. So good thing we still have firewood from last night that we didn't get to use because it was raining, because we're probably going to need it. The west side of Rocky Mountain National Park has their own visitor center, and you might notice that the parking lot here is smaller and much less crowded than the Beaver Creek Visitor Center that we had to get our permit at last time. So for a lot of people, the east side of the park is definitely more spectacular, but it's so much of a hassle when you can't find parking and everywhere is really super crowded that we tend to really not like that experience, especially when you're in a national park and you're trying to enjoy nature. So we were really happy that we decided to come over to the east side of the park and see what this side had to offer. We got our wilderness permit for the following night, and then we headed down a little bit farther to explore the Grand Lake area.
Homemade chocolate bakery.
It's a cute downtown. Grand Lake has that really cute small town kind of vibe that we enjoy. When we went down to the lakefront, it was kind of chilly and windy, and we were reading this interesting sign about how you have to be careful about bears, of course, and aggressive moose. This would be something that becomes more relevant later on in the video. But we could see how the Grand Lake area was absolutely beautiful and probably a really nice spot in the summer when you can enjoy the lake and do some boating and kayaking. But since it was windy, we went and found the local bakery and got some baked goods and coffee, one of our favorite things to do when we're traveling. And then we headed back up toward our campsite, but we made a stop at a historic site on the way back up. Oh, I heard an elk.
You did?
Yeah. Another sleepless night of elk screaming. This land was a part of a 160-acre homestead that was founded by John and Sophia Holsworth. They got the land as part of the Homestead Act of 1862 and moved their family from Denver after trying to settle there as German immigrants. They wanted to get away from the city and live a more natural lifestyle, so they headed out and got this piece of land. They spent many years working on it and faced quite a bit of hardship because this is a really extreme environment along the Rocky Mountains. It's also located at the Colorado River, so the water that you see here goes all the way down to the Grand Canyon and through the Hoover Dam, which we thought was really interesting for this very small, slow-moving stream. The Holsworth family purchased an additional piece of land on the other side of the river to expand their property, and over the years they used this for many different things. They had a timber operation, they harvested ice from the lake, and they eventually turned it into a ranch that was somewhat of a tourist attraction for people who wanted to experience the Rocky Mountains in this natural and rugged state. The area became known as the Never Summer Ranch because of the harsh weather conditions that you see here.
I guess we go this way.
Yeah.
These cabins were from, what was it, 1923. They look good. They're holding up.
When we got back to the Timber Creek campsite, we walked just behind our campsite to the river, and we found a few people back there that were watching some elk on the other side of the river. We could hear the elk calling in the distance, but there were two on the other side of the river that we got to watch for a few minutes as they walked and grazed. And I have to say, this was a much nicer encounter with the elk. These elk were very calm, and we had a stream in between us and them, so that made us feel more comfortable. At that point, it was starting to get dark, so we decided to head back to the campsite and cook our dinner and really start to get everything ready for the rather cold night ahead. We decided to make soup for dinner because we figured that would help to warm us up a little bit as the temperature started to go down as the sun came out of the valley and over the top of the mountains. As it got dark, we started to put on more and more of our layers to try to keep warm. Luckily, we had a bundle of firewood that was left over from the hermit campground. This campground was out of firewood, so we were really, really lucky with that. We had saved it because it had rained the other night, so we couldn't sit out and have a campfire.
It was cold.
It was cold. You're gonna have to tell your story of the moose encounter.
Oh yeah. I went to go to the bathroom. Then I walked over to the path over here. I thought somebody was walking a dog or something. That's what it sounded like. And I didn't really want to be too rude, but I was like, let me flash it. Or let me go get my headlamp. Got my headlamp, flashed it. Saw a big bull moose with huge antlers just staring at me right about 20 yards away. I had the car, myself, between me and him. And so I was like, nope, I'm not going to the bathroom. Backed up, just peed near a bush and went back to bed.
I wish you woke me up. I always wanted to see a moose. So he was right over there
evening program.
by the sign.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
There's droppings over there too.
Oh yeah, moose poop evidence. That's crazy. I wonder how many times we were sleeping and like an animal walked by and we didn't even know it. Probably more than we want to think.
Yeah.
Patrick versus the bear canister.
Thumbs aren't strong enough anymore.
It's bear proof and human proof. You have to be really super hungry in order to open it. I can't get it open.
Kills your thumbs.
It's really hard. Maybe because it's new. I'm wondering if it's because it's new. Because I feel like it shouldn't be that hard. Got it? Oh. It's shock resistant, don't worry.
After we finally got the bear canister open and were able to make ourselves breakfast, we started to break down camp, and we were getting ready for a backpacking trip, so we had to take all of our sleeping bags and sleeping pads and pack them very carefully, get them into the compression sacks, and then once we had that all together, we packed them into our backpacks and got everything into the car to head over to the East Inlet Trail. Campsite and heading to the, what is it, the East Inlet? Yeah, East Inlet Trailhead.